There is one circumstance in which the brief for a project can change, can be radically altered, in fact, and that's when it is forged in the pain of a life-threatening illness. A brush with mortality is usually enough to alter your priorities, focus your mind, and propel you to get on with it and build something extraordinary. This is Toby Leeming, 7 years ago, when he was in a then up-and-coming band, Duologue.
We just had our first album out. We put a lot of work in to get to that stage, and we were just beginning to enjoy it. There was the excitement about that things may happen. So it was a really exciting time.
He met Libby, an actor, shortly afterwards.
Yeah, we were just a typical, normal couple starting out in a relationship, working hard, playing hard, and just really enjoying life. And then suddenly it just went.
In 2013, while his band were on tour in the US, Toby ended up in hospital.
It was, life-threatening when I went into A&E in America, you know, and they whisked me away, put me straight in a private room and asked me all sorts of terrifying questions.
And they said he might not make it through the night.
Toby was diagnosed with leukemia. A year of life-saving treatment followed, during which time a vision of a future life took shape.
I wasn't allowed out of hospital, so you go into a room and you're stuck in the same room for about 10 or 12 weeks in one room, with that and a bathroom, and you can't go out. It was at that time that the idea of building a home became an obsession.
When he started drawing ideas of houses, I thought, oh gosh, I'm gonna have to really humour you and get excited for you, knowing full well that probably in a year's time it would just go in the bin. But it didn't drop.
All right then, okay.
Today, Toby is free of leukemia thanks to a bone marrow transplant. He and Libby are now married, have an infant daughter, Margot, and have moved from London to rural Suffolk. It's a healthier environment for Toby, who has a compromised immune system.
I would steer clear of crowded areas, which is hard to do in a city. I'm immunosuppressed, which means I pick up bugs, and when I get bugs, they can have much greater effect on me.
Another legacy of his leukemia is an increased risk of skin cancer.
I had a complication, which is when the transplant's not 100% happy with your body. That means I need to stay out of the sun or put on lots of sunblock, no matter what the weather.
Despite these challenges, Toby is in a much better place. One where he can dare to realise his dream of building a home for his young family under the shade of an ancient oak tree. So, what do you got here? You got how much land?
We've got 4.5 acres.
How'd you get hold of it?
My mum and dad live 200 yards down the road. The farmer opposite knew my parents and he knew about us. He was quite keen to sell.
What are you going to build?
A home.
Yeah, a generous family home, but also it's a modern take on the Suffolk Black Barn.
Does the building wrap around this tree? Is that the
Yeah,
idea?
that's exactly the idea. It was designed around that tree.
So the idea was when it gets hotter and there's a lot of light, the trees provide us a good amount of shade. I'm not supposed to go in the sun, and I am, immunocompromised. So as the sun rises, we'll be protected by the canopy.
Is it fair to ask you whether, had you not fallen ill, whether or not you would have built the house?
You get away with murder once you've been so profoundly ill.
We've never actually spoken about this. There's a lot of things that you said in hospital and afterwards that I kind of let him ride off into the distance and go, yes, dear, if you want to build a house, of course, let's do it. And actually, I wonder if he hadn't been ill, whether or not I'd be like, don't be ridiculous, we can't afford it, we can't do that, we can't whatever.
Have you resolved between you this design?
This has very much been Toby's been driving it. Every time I think of something that I don't necessarily like, you always have a really good point of why it's the way it is. So
you find that annoying?
Yeah, of course.
An architect has worked up Toby's sketches for a nature-healing home into a full scheme. And what a lot of home there is! 370 square metres of it, spread across 4 separate steel-framed buildings, placed lightly in a horseshoe around this ancient oak. They'll be externally black-clad to emulate the local Suffolk black barns famous in the area. The first block will house a workshop, a music studio for Toby, and a utility room. Next door is the main living building, slightly split and bent, and housing a boot room and a double-height kitchen diner with some high-level windows to let indirect light in. Down the hall, sliding partitions will reveal a core block of small rooms, a playroom for Margot, an office for Libby, and a snug, while at the end, a large sitting room will enjoy views over the countryside to the west. A glazed link will lead to a building for sleeping, 4 bedrooms, one of which is a small suite for Toby and Libby. And finally, there'll be a self-catering annex for visiting family, or one day occasional B&B to generate some income. Like the walls, the roofs will also be black-clad, and they'll push out into the courtyard to form an external shaded walkway to keep Toby out of the sun and provide a covered link between the buildings. The Great Central Oak is part of this project to provide delight, shade and cooling, although to build around and near it with traditional foundations would compact the soil, damage its roots and threaten its survival. So Toby and Libby are employing a main contractor who's developed a lightweight construction method. It uses small concrete padstones to support the buildings, which will effectively float above the ground. So your construction method of putting the steel frame above ground, resting on these pads, was that very much evolved as part of the dealing with the site and the trees here?
The planning was contingent on the type of structure, a low-impact structure. Exactly how we did it hadn't yet been decided, but this is a perfect solution for that. And we've got nothing cutting off the root areas. We're just going in the tops, but we're not putting big barriers along it. The one thing we don't want is this tree falling on us, because it would do a little bit of damage to a house.
We look after it, it looks after us.
This lightweight approach is technical and needs careful engineering. There are 4 buildings totaling 370 square metres. Sounds expensive. How much is it going to cost you?
£530,000.
And how much was the land?
Land was 170 plus an uplift of 80, so it's 250.
£780,000 all in.
Yeah.
So how do you pay for it all?
Savings, a mixture between inheritance and...
Inherited some money from Libby's mum passing. We're also selling our cottage.
Given the fact that your health is compromised as a result of the illness and that, you've got to look after yourself.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you're not going to build this house yourself. You're not going to project manage it, are you?
No.
Good.
No.
What are you doing?
So, small bits. We agreed with the contractor, the carpentry and so forth.
So you are going to get involved?
Yeah, I'm excited by getting involved.
So it's the end of October now, so when do you expect to get in?
8 months from here.
Seriously? Building over the winter? 8 months? That's very quick.
Yeah.
I didn't choose the building schedule. It was offered forth by the builder. When we agreed price first, and then I said how long would it take, and that's what he suggested. So I take him at his word.
Yeah. It's tight. There's a degree of complexity in this project that means it can't be rushed. Thing is, expedience doesn't always lead to great architecture because great buildings are often considered. They're about delivering not just space and storage and somewhere to live, but also joy and delight and detail. Expedience and architecture are not always great bedfellows. But in the spirit of progress, 2 days later, the steel frame starts going up.
Just go back a little bit.
The idea is that putting the home on stilts will keep tree root damage to an absolute minimum.
We go back for the post now.
The super-fast construction approach used here is the brainchild of Toby and Libby's builder and project manager, Darren, who'll be delivering the scheme for a fixed price of £530,000.
It's all sort of going quite well to plan. I believe the system that's being used here at the moment is the only practical way that this could have been built, with the restrictions of the ground by the trees. We've only disturbed probably 30% of the ground that you would have done traditionally.
I'm just trying to locate my last beam.
I'm confident he'll do it. It's blind faith, I suppose, but it seemed to tick all the boxes and just actually provide an answer to how the hell we could build it. And so far, Darren and I get along fine. We'll see.
Seeing Toby finally realising his architectural dream is a significant moment for Libby.
I can't believe it. I can't believe it. I don't think he can believe it either. And he comes back at night and he gets so excited. And it's really amazing to see. And I'm so proud of him. And I can't believe we've got here, yeah. Sorry.
All 4 steel structures are complete in just 14 days. That's remarkable.
Nice and level.
Yeah, I'm there.
And Darren's team moves straight on to setting out the timber-floored joists.
11 for it.
It's early days, but so far the result doesn't resemble a house. It's altogether something else. Good heavens. It was architect Ed McCann who developed the initial designs for this home, which have been adapted to suit Darren's super-fast construction method. I just look at the building and think, there's a possibility this could look like a bunch of scout huts.
You know, I hope that it won't be a kind of scout camp. I think it's important that the junctions are well put together. Like the junctions between the windows and the rest of the cladding, if it's nicely done, it will elevate this.
Yeah.
Rather than it just being a shed, which is the risk.
Oh my God, it's so big.
But Toby has fully embraced Ed's design, and he has no doubts whatsoever.
That's much bigger than I thought it would be.
You stop going on about that.
Well, it's quite a big thing.
It's exactly as I imagined it, but it's much cooler in reality. Well, if you can't get excited about this, then you've got a problem, don't you?
This great complex of shed-like buildings is what he's been dreaming of all these years.
Oh my Lord.
Toby has architectural ambition. He also has a medical need for shade. Libby, meanwhile, wants a light-filled family home.
What's your concern?
Well, that it's just so close to the tree, and I'm just really worried about the lack of light coming into the kitchen, or the house, actually.
It's all negatives. We can always prune the lower bits of the oak tree.
But I'm worried that it might just be too crammed and dark. Not that we can change it, I'm just saying. I am such a worrier, and it really upsets Toby because he thinks I'm really negative. I am still worried that there's not going to be enough light. That is what I'm anxious about the most, I think.
The point is, none of us know whether there'll be enough light, other than Toby. The design is completely worked out, of course, but it's all in his head. In West Suffolk, Toby and Libby are just a month in, and already the basic timber and steel structures of their multi-hut home are materialising in a big horseshoe around the old oak tree, which, perhaps thanks to the minimal foundations, seems healthy. It's still in leaf, in December. I want to learn more about Darren's embryonic building method and why it's so quick to put up. Tell me what is unique about your approach, about this system you've got, M-Block.
It's basically the design. Every product that you see on site, all the length, the heights are all the same. Basically, I wanted simplicity, that instead of having professional trades, that you could have multi-skill that put it together. And if I have the same steels, the same floor joists, the same roof joists, the same timbers, they're all identical. So the next person just goes to get the next one on the stack, doesn't actually have to see as that, you know, that it's literally, it will fit. And that allows them to go together very quickly.
It's simple, really. Standardization equals speed. But I wonder if such a super-fast method can meet architecture halfway and deliver a building that has some delight and charm in it. So you pleased?
It's quick.
It's quick. It's so quick, this system, that I begin to wonder whether or not it's sort of going to have a whiff of the out-of-town retail centre or because of the repetition. And I think Darren is kind of addicted to the idea of repeatability here. He likes the idea of systems.
I think I'm mediating the two at the moment, which is the aspiration and then what's buildable on budget. There are compromises to be made along the way.
Do you feel in control of all this?
I get anxious that it's not going to be how I want it exactly.
The speed of construction demands speedy decisions, however. This, I think, only exacerbates the tension between Toby's vision and Libby's more domestic agenda.
Look, we can put, you know, storage here.
No.
I knew you were going to say that.
No, you can't, because you've got the views coming through here. You're not filling this up with muck.
God, are we building a minimalistic house? You just, like, disguised it.
No, we're not at all. You just want to put stuff everywhere.
When Darren first said, you will be in it by July, I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I got so excited and I couldn't believe that a house could be built so fast. But of course, there are issues that go with that. I feel very rushed. I find it really difficult to decide without even physically seeing stuff.
So Toby's making all the decisions, including where the electrical points should go.
I've done a chart of what switches they're going to turn on and off.
So complicated.
Toby's as focused as a ninja on this project, but he also needs to remember his health.
I do get myself slightly wound up into moments of anxiety when I'm wanting to do certain things. When it comes to all these lovely details I've thought about in my head for 5 years, that's what makes me apprehensive. I get quite tired.
The stresses and strains of the process make it more important than ever that Toby keeps up his regular trips to hospital.
I can quite quickly forget that I've been ill, despite the number of pills you take in the morning. Sometimes I don't look after myself as well as I should. And because I don't have much of an immune system and I'm on immunosuppression, infections could cause me real problems, potentially life-threatening. I'm pretty run down now, actually.
A legacy of Toby's bone marrow transplant is a toxic buildup of ferritin, a protein containing iron in his system.
Mostly.
Which is why he has a pint of his blood drained every 4 to 6 weeks.
Feeling quite tired. What was my hemoglobin?
18, I think.
It's like a horse needle. After giving blood, I'll just feel a bit tireder. No power tools, no heavy machinery, no diggers for 24 hours.
It's vital that this project runs with a minimum of stress. But 3 months into what is an 8-month schedule, severe winter weather arrives.
Happy days. It was really cold. It was -6 yesterday when we come into work. So a quick cup of tea and just work through. 10 o'clock we'll have a break. But it is very, very cold.
Even so, Darren remains buoyantly optimistic that his team will finish on time.
Very pleased considering we have had some very cold days, wet days as well, and we've still had no downtime. So we're progressing nicely at the moment.
They start to get this enormous home watertight, fitting some cost-effective standard range windows. Next, they'll be fixing the cladding that Toby and Libby hope will turn the retail centre-cum-shed complex into some proper architecture. More like those Suffolk barns, the black-painted wooden buildings that have dotted the East Anglian countryside for centuries, and which have inspired some wonderful domestic architecture in the region. That's good. Like this beautiful home in Woodbridge, designed by Studio Bark. Strong architectural shapes, a wooden box sitting on a rooted stone plinth, and altogether softened by a wildflower meadow. I mean, what could be more exciting, more poetic? On the inside, Douglas fir scissor trusses run at a slant down the vaulted ceiling of the living space. This is absolutely beautiful. This is a journey. This is what you get when you spend twice what Toby and Libby are spending on their house. On a smaller building too, that is timber framed and exquisitely crafted. Outside, what roots this building to its place is a skin of flame-burnt western red cedar. This cladding is beautiful. It has all the gnarliness and texture of those traditional East Anglian black-painted barns, except this is done with heat-treated timber. The thing about it, of course, is that it is quite expensive to do. I think beyond the budget of Libby and Toby. Instead of charred cedar, Toby and Libby are pulling off the Suffolk black barn aesthetic with crinkly black cement board on the roof and walls.
The sheeting's going on.
It'll certainly look agricultural, and it's inexpensive. 1,000 square metres for 25 grand.
That roof's complete, but you can't see it from here.
Because I'm a roof tiler by trade, I probably would have had slate, but that's a personal choice. The client, it all adds to the aspect of what he's trying to achieve, a bit of a farmyard, sort of in the country look.
You all right?
But once again, Toby's design choices are unnerving Libby.
When you showed me the samples, and we had like 4 or 5 samples of different blacks, we just went for one. I couldn't imagine what it's going to look like on the roof, let alone on the front. And I've never seen a proper SketchUp of it.
It's very on trend. Look how quickly it's gone on. I think they did this whole roof in 2 days.
So the cladding, which is on the roof, is also going to be on the front, which will make it look like one big black box. There's always been a worry of mine that it's going to just be really, like, severe and striking and just a bit hard. And how you know, there's not many pot plants you can put them at the front to make it, like, soften it up.
It is quite scout hut, but it's going to look great.
Toby decides so much here that we can all only hope he has Libby and Margot at the centre of his vision. Halfway through their 8-month schedule, how the buildings look together in the landscape is becoming clearer. Hiya.
Hi.
How are you both? All
Nice
right?
to see you.
And you. Are you all to schedule?
It seems to be racing along, yeah. We're trying to catch up, really, or keep pace.
This building, come on, it is large, isn't it? Does look like a village.
I know. Better than my dad's description, which
was
3 supermarkets extras in a row next to each other.
A shanty town, perhaps, but not supermarket, come on.
It feels quite imposing at the moment, I have to say.
That's going to look like a really posh Himalayan hilltop village. But, I mean, yeah, a posh one.
Yeah, thanks.
Big, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's going to be fantastic. I'm confident.
You don't want too much direct sunlight in the building, do you?
And there has to be a compromise. I mean, we need it to be a light house. You don't want it to be a dark house.
Are you included in the decision-making, or do you find that a lot of the decisions are almost pre-made?
I think you've just nailed it on the head, as this has been your vision. When I come in and say, that's not going to work, let's try something else, it doesn't sometimes settle very well.
You've already made thousands of decisions, no doubt.
It is difficult when you are sort of questions that I feel was settled so long in the past.
If I question it, he either justifies why that idea isn't good and we should do it this way, and we sometimes have, heated discussions.
Toby's under a great deal of pressure now, not least financial. There's a £10,000 overspend on the electrics. You were hoping to spend about $530 all in on the project?
Yeah, our electrical schedule came back over double, which was partly an under-anticipation of the kind of details. We spec'd it quite highly. So, but I'm going to try and claw back some from the kitchen.
You're now building the kitchen. And that was the one thing at the beginning I wanted you not to build.
And it's not just the kitchen Toby's now taking on. He's also started the onerous task of clearing the land around the new home. This, despite his leukemia leaving him prone to exhaustion.
We could pay someone else to do it, but it would cost money and it needs doing. It's reasonably hard work, but it's amazing what you can get done with just one of you and a machine. So we'll churn through it. I just need to take breaks. I get kind of out of puff, but it's manageable, but yeah, a day is enough, and then I need a day's recuperation.
Come on.
Good girl.
I understand his need to build, to leave a mark. but not his willingness to risk his health. Nobody goes into this process really understanding how much it drains you, how much it demands. And with Toby's health so compromised, his immune system so compromised. So you talk about the impact on his health.
Yeah, he ignores it quite a lot. He doesn't like talking about it much. Changes the subject. I think he feels that he has to achieve exactly what he wanted to. This is something that he has thought about for years. He thought about it 4.5 years ago and wrote it on that notepad, and that's how he wants it.
So in that moment you must feel emotionally blackmailed.
A little. Breaking down that side of his vision has been a challenge, and that has brought up a lot of issues with us. You know, discussions and arguments, and the pressure is tense, it's full on. The main differences are my practical, everyday needs and his architectural side. But we have to live in it.
Good architecture, however, should both serve practical needs and lift the soul. And for that matter, enhance its setting. I'm not sure that 400 square metres of cheap cement board in the roof and a further 600 metres on the walls are going to do that.
It's like smart. This stuff's clean. Good work.
Yeah, it's going well.
I think it's a really good, robust way of cladding a house in like an affordable way.
To be honest, you could probably put 5 sheets probably up in about sort of 5-10 minutes. I don't think I'd use it on my house, to be honest with you. I don't really like the look of it myself, but each their own, really.
Yep, each to their own. Not that corrugated concrete is entirely without its merits. Yeah, lovely. Or precedents. Livy and Toby's house has progressed from a black rural barn to a possible scout hut to a Himalayan village. Actually, if it doesn't progress beyond that in personality, it doesn't matter. Because look at the charm. Look at the energy that this lightweight, poorly built, traditional building has. Look what crinkly cut does for you. It's spring in West Suffolk, and with just 2 months of the main contractor's programme left, the pressure's on to finish the 4 basic structures that make up the giant horseshoe arrangement, as well as detail the more bespoke features. A shaded walkway, essential to protect Toby from the sun, and a link room to connect the large living space hut to the bedroom hut. It's causing Toby some stress.
This is a complete mess. If you can explain to me, I know you said don't worry about it, but it seems an impossibility to me that you could get a roof under there that goes over to there without it colliding into the soffit here.
This is a very complicated junction here.
No, I appreciate that.
The reason it's so complicated is that the 2 structures they're trying to connect are on stilts at different heights and facing in different directions.
Let me, like this, just, if you've got a pencil.
The linkway between the 2 buildings, I'm trying to explain to Toby that I understand he wants to see a drawing, but I don't really know how to draw it. We can see it, and obviously Toby can't. You know, Toby's knowledge isn't of a building background. It's just one of those sort of trying times at the moment. We've got it.
Some of the building's details aren't in Toby's vision. And a week on, it's still unclear how they'll squeeze insulation and a roof into the tiny space where the link room meets the adjoining building.
So we've got glazing in here with the door set there. So this is all glass.
Just difficulty there is getting enough insulation on top of that beam, isn't it?
I think, yeah, it's going to collide with the...
I go up here. This is the beam. On top of this, you've only got yay much to get all of your roof.
I know. Yeah, it's going to be, well, it's going to need some tidying up. I'm leaving it in the hands. It's something I flagged long ago, so it's a challenge for the builder.
What, do they all say, don't worry, it'll be fine?
Words to that effect.
Inside, Toby's not just relying on Darren. To save money, he's now doing all the joinery himself. And there's a humongous amount for him to do. You are finishing the kitchen here?
Yeah.
Joinery elsewhere?
Yeah, so all along this wall.
All along the wall? From where? Where's it start?
From the entrance.
What? What happens where? What happens at the start?
I'll walk you through it.
Yeah, yeah.
So you walk in, we've got a long bench we sit on.
Yeah.
Step up, something with a little cupboard, and then a table here for all our gubbins, and then steps down to sort of slender shelves, and then step back up to another triangular bench that sort of mirrors that acts as a kid's kind of...
Were you aware of this? Are you aware of the detail of this?
Do you know what? Until this conversation, I don't think I quite realised actually how much you have to do.
It sounds very ambitious, but that's not even the half of it.
Don't rush these things because I will cock the whole thing up.
He's also decided to take on even more work, laying the entire floor and building 5 vanity units.
Measure twice, cut once.
Work previously allocated for Darren's team.
I've done that before.
It might be intended to save money, but Darren's nervous. He wants to finish on time, but his team now have to wait for Toby to finish before they can get on and decorate.
The concern that we have is his knowledge and the ability to be able to do these areas of works, which obviously will impact on the quality of it and also the time it's actually taken him to do it.
Sorry, it does take me this long because I end up redoing everything.
The longer it takes, it costs me, and we're conscious of that, so we're trying to nurture him so it doesn't get to the point that we will exceed our timescale through no fault of our own.
And obviously he's learning free from my staff, as it were.
Sorry, I could have thought about this.
It's up to the site manager, Pete, to nurture Toby.
I have, thought this through 1,000 times and then...
Does it change every time you think about it? We get badgered from the office to get done as quickly as we can.
What depth is this shelf?
Whatever you want to make it. We'd normally have a contractor that came in and fitted it all, and they'd do it within a week easily. But yeah, it's an extra that Toby didn't want to spend, so he's doing it himself.
There's at least 150 square metres of flooring for Toby to lay on his own, a task that would be difficult for someone even in perfect health. One potentially serious consequence of Toby working so hard is that he hasn't been for his post-leukemia hospital appointments in 4 months.
I've been putting it off because I just want to get everything done. Sometimes things drop to the bottom of the list and so exhausted anyway. And on top of that, losing blood is just unhelpful.
But notwithstanding this threat to his health, he's trying to go as fast as he can because there's now just 4 weeks until this project's meant to be finished.
I've never laid a laminate floor. I think it should take a professional 2 days. So I reckon, give me 2 weeks, it'll be done. No.
Inevitably, it takes Toby twice as long as he thought to finish.
I feel exhausted. I'd say it's taken about a month to do the flooring. It's not been fast. It's been uninteresting work laying the floor, but it is satisfying now it's down. I can see all the areas that I've messed up, but I'm not going to tell anyone where they are.
It's hardly surprising the 8-month deadline passes as Darren's team try to fit around Toby's slow progress. They're only midway through building the great shaded walkway, essential as a visual and physical link, and to keep Toby protected from the sun. So is this what you imagined?
The decking is quite brutal at the moment.
Definitely for me the main thing that I had no idea what it was going to look like. So
I still don't. At the moment, there's no sense of the overhang and how
exactly.
that fits and details into the building.
Yeah, it's a bit of a mystery, that one.
But not for long. 60 square metres of polycarbonate sheeting have arrived.
is it not going to blow away in the wind?
It'll have these special, slightly horrific fixings that are supposed to be waterproof.
I was worried that it was going to look really cheap, and it probably will.
Surely not in the safe hands of the site manager, Pete, an expert in all kinds of building materials.
I haven't used the polycarbonate before, definitely not in a project like this. When I first saw it, I kind of thought semi-cheap conservatory. I'm a little bit worried about what it's going to look like, but hopefully Toby made the right decision.
This is a crucial part of this project. But for it to work properly, it's got to feel like part of this project. It's got to feel like part of the building. It's got to feel like architecture, not some add-on stuck onto the side of a bungalow. And they haven't quite figured out all the details here. And then I'm hoping that when they do, it's going to feel fully resolved and part of it, and not some lumpy addition. It's late summer in Suffolk, and remarkably, only 11 months since Toby and Libby set out to build a healthy home set amongst nature that might also offer Toby vital protection from the sun. You know, several things have perplexed me about this project over the last year, and they're all to do with whether this place is proper architecture, and whether it is just a bunch of sheds that have sprung from Toby's mind, because what it has to do, of course, is to be proper architecture, lift the spirits, restore the soul and the body in this case as well. Oh, and of course, be a very comfortable and beautiful home for Libby and the family. So is it a proper building or still just a bunch of sheds? But this is more like it. No, that's much better. That's really quite good. The 4 black buildings that make this home have been lifted and integrated with clever architectural details. The walkway, which makes the structure seem more satisfyingly at one whole. Timber detailing around the windows that breaks up the otherwise uniform black cladding. A battened grid to subtly hide the lightweight plastic canopy. And of course, there's the glorious setting itself. Very good to see you. Good to see you both. How are you? All right. Yeah, good. Smiling, both happy.
Yes.
Yeah. With a happy, smiling house.
Yes.
And a happy, smiling tree.
Yes.
So how long have you been in?
3-4 weeks.
And has it been a building site that you've been living in?
Yes. So there's been lots of drilling until 11 p.m, which has been fun.
The veranda has actually worked out really nicely, and it's very elegant.
Yeah, it's
Like Japanese almost. And does it do what it's meant to do?
It does, actually. It doesn't impede on the view, but it does give you the shade we want.
But it also allows some soft filtered light through as well.
Yeah, it suits it. It does look Japanesey, and we're embracing that thought.
I think the scout huts work really well, and you know, they're not scout huts. There's something else going on. It's much more clever. It's partly about some of the little architectural details, and of course about the connectedness of them as well.
Mm. I do think Ed's detailing in the windows has made all the difference.
Yeah.
Correct.
I love that.
That all of that being broken up because it could have just been impressive. I think the steel guttering helps.
I agree. Yeah, and I also think lifting the buildings off the deck actually, in a way, kind of gives them some nobility, raises them. No, it's worked out really, really nice. A very elegant thing. So can we get inside? I'm curious to know how well that delivers.
Yeah.
So much of Toby's vision was focused on the interior. Oh, Gordon Bennett, look at this. And he certainly has delivered. This is something else. Toby, it turns out, is a master of plywood cabinetry. It's all exquisitely crafted and even, dare I say it, homely. This is an almighty achievement for someone learning on the job. I never thought you'd finish it, Toby.
Nor did I.
No. Kitchen, all done. This is all you, Toby.
Yeah.
The flooring, all you.
Yeah.
Yeah? And how much do you spend on the kitchen?
It's about $3 grand. The worktops were 50% of it.
So, and it meets your exacting standards, does it?
It does.
Does it meet your standard? I mean, does it function well as a kitchen?
It's beautiful. It works way better than I could have anticipated, actually.
That's beautifully detailed and decorated now. Those views up. You were worried this was going to be dark, Libby.
I was.
And?
It's not. It's fantastic.
There's very little direct sunlight into the building.
Inside feels like outdoors. The light is lovely, but I don't have to be in direct sunlight. So, very happy.
And I have noticed you don't have to think about it anymore. You don't have to think necessarily about having to put cream on when you're working outside.
What you've just described is what good architecture does. You know, a good building means you have to think less and work less hard.
Right. To live.
To live, to enjoy living. Extending from the kitchen diner is an extremely well thought out series of small rooms. more broken plan than open. A playroom for Margot, an office for Libby, and a snug, next to which is the generous sitting room facing west. This is almost like a greenhouse, this room. I mean, or a conservatory, you know, because there's so much glazing. Extraordinary views across the landscape here. But what's really exciting is this space. Connecting the living spaces to the more hunkered down bedroom building is the link room, glazed on both sides. It's lovely. I mean, and it's completely engaging. It feels more outside than in almost. You had an issue, didn't you, trying to get the levels right in here?
We ended up bringing the front of the building up top out to meet it so it sort of resolved. And it looked, I just don't know what I was worrying about. I think Darren's done a great job, you know, trust people who know what they're doing to do a good job, and I think it's turned out well.
So this is all bedrooms?
All bedrooms.
These include a spare room, a room for Margot, and the master bedroom for Toby and Libby. Oh, they're beautiful, with lovely views out again. So did you make these vanity units in here?
Yeah, recycled material.
But he's done a beautiful job.
So beautiful.
Treated ourselves to a whole house filtration system. So it's a triple part filter that cleans out the chlorine. If you have immune issues, often you just get incredibly dry, and so you couldn't bath in the chlorine water. Now, after this, I can wash more regularly, which everyone's happy about.
And enjoy his favourite thing, a hot shower.
Yeah.
Most of us take that for granted. The building's kind of sorted you out.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful place to be. I think we're just getting used to it. It feels a bit of a daydream at the moment.
It's still, I mean, I'm still riding on it. I still wake up every morning and smile.
There remain areas to finish off. The annex that might provide some rental income, and another building that'll incorporate a utility room, workshop, and a studio for Toby. Nevertheless, to have pulled this off, something of real quality so quickly, is extraordinary. Darren thought he'd get this thing done in 8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was 11 months till now. So, bearing in mind the amount of time it took you to mess around doing all this joinery, was he about right?
Yeah, I think it was spot on. We slowed him down a bit at the end. So, yeah, he's delivered.
Yeah.
I think he's done a great job.
I mean, did you spend what you wanted to spend for it? It was about 530.
We've spent 545.
Really good job.
Yeah.
It must be rather gratifying to have this setting for a future.
It wasn't really an achievable goal, this, in my head. You know, it was a dream. The fact it's become real is a very strange thing. I hadn't really thought about the motivations behind building the house, but of course it is this thing of permanence and a safe place to be, a safe place to come back to, a safe place to leave if anything happens to me. There are potential pitfalls ahead, but we've got a safe place for Margot and Libs, which is important. Don't want to dwell on it.
And what does it mean to you?
A lot. I just, we made it, which is amazing. Well, you made it, but we made it, if you know what I mean. Sorry, I hate you when I cry. It's just, it's been a lot.
There were moments when the idea of doing this house, I just didn't know if we had it in us. I didn't know if he had it in him. But I'm glad you pushed it through and pushed us through it. This is now our time to be able to be normal. We haven't really had a normal life together, ever. You know, it's been 6, 7 years of constant drama. So, and the house being the end of that, I hope. And now we can sail into the future.
I suspect this place will encourage a life that is better than just normal. I suspect they'll feel blessed here, living in Toby's vision made real. We mould our world in our own image, don't we? Churchill said that we shape our buildings and then afterwards they shape us. And so it is with this place, really. I mean, these modest, rather unassuming buildings, of course, sort of reflect Toby's personality. Like him, they contain deeper, more I suppose, contemplative passions, really. They certainly, I think now, have the potential, going forwards, to alter and influence his and Libby's and Margot's lives. These buildings have the potential to re-energise them, revitalise them, provide meaning and coherence after so many years of turbulence and difficulty. No, these quiet, unassuming sheds are great architecture.
So cool to knock it down and build a lighthouse.
Putting a house on top of that cliff is madness.
The bank said no.
I haven't been here for 4 years.
You don't actually think it's going to happen?
And it's the hardest rock that I've ever seen.
Terrifying doesn't really sum it up, if I'm honest.
It's going to be extraordinary.
This is in jeopardy.
It's a pity lighthouses won't make it square, because it'll be a hell of a lot cheaper.